Anybody got a prescription, yeah, for this love pain? Anybody got a pill like a pop for this?
All right, come on in and join us. We are continuing into our quarantine series of All the Way Live with the Byrds. I am one half of your dynamic duo. I go by the name of Dr. J. Byrd. And I am joined by my lovely and talented and beautiful wife, and she goes by the name of
Dr. Angel Byrd.
And together, you know us by the Byrds. All right. And so hopefully you've been joining us all throughout this series, and we've been talking about the 12 marriage busters. All right. And so we're going to finish that up today. And so I'm excited to continue in this. As people are joining in, we just want to continue to say thank you to all those out there that are trying to help keep us safe on the front lines. Hospital employees and workers and anyone who has anything to do with trying to help keep us safe. So people like, myself and my wife can remain at home, and we can try to get rid of this coronavirus. So we thank you. We pray for you daily. We pray for our country. And but because there has been such a thing as a quarantine, it has caused a lot of potential issues that were lying dormant in marriages to surface. Those things were there, but because of the hustle and bustle, sometimes you kind of avoided them or kind of got them on a hit and miss basis. But now when we're forced to dwell closely for large periods of time, a lot of times those things come to the surface. So what would you like to say to people before we get into the list today?
Well, I want to say you guys are in front of your computer. It takes 1 second to hit the button to share with another married couple or people who are thinking about marriage or people that are in relationships. Just hit the button. It's really easy to do because we just don't want anyone to be left out of the tools and the nuggets that we give. So it doesn't take that much. So can you do that for me, please? And I welcome you to All the Way Live with the Byrds.
All right. So again, as I said, this series has been the 12 marriage busters, and what I mean by that is that even good marriages or somewhat happy marriages, if these issues are allowed to creep into your marriage and not get dealt with and allowed to fester and grow, they're like little foxes that end up spoiling the vine. And so you can go back and watch future shows, but just since we're ending today, let me go real quickly over the list. We started with number 1 was overstepping boundaries. It's not my right to change my wife. It's not her right to change me. That's something that each one of us has to do in and of ourselves, and I don't impose where I'm not asked to impose.
Yes, you do.
I guess we said we shouldn't impose where we're not asked to impose.
In real life.
Number 2, lack of effective communication. Can't just be surface, just talking about just the non-essential stuff. Being able to talk like stuff that we're talking about in this list. People that have gone back and watched these, and people that have watched these, have you sat down and had a conversation about these? We know some people. We've talked to people that have, and they've had very effective communication because of this list, and it's really helped them. But if you're just talking about what the weather is today and what they're saying on Fox News and CNBC and CNN and all that kind of stuff, and what social media is saying, if you're just having that surface conversation, you're not going to be able to dig deep into your marriage. Number 3, declining sexual intimacy. And declining sexual intimacy usually comes from a lack of declining intimacy. And intimacy usually declines when there's not good, effective communication. So those kind of all build together. A shift in focus, meaning like, a lot of times people get married and, before they get married, the focus is one another. There's this hunt. They want to spend time together. And then all of a sudden they say I do, they get married, and now their focus shifts to men earning a living, women raising children, building a home, just different focus, hobbies, interests. All right. Number 5 was emotional cheating. Okay.
That was good.
That was good. Emotional cheating. Emotional cheating usually leads to physical cheating as well. And sometimes we talk about emotional cheating can be even worse because somebody else has the heart of your spouse. That's devastating to know someone has the heart of your spouse emotionally. Money wars. Most marriages that are really in bad shape, a lot of times they have divisiveness over finances. And it's not always that they don't have enough money to survive and to do well. It's just that because they're divided in their finances and it's separate, it's like a hole is in it. It's like a hole in a bucket and it's just leaking out every month and they can't seem to figure it out. Number 7 was when we lack showing appreciation. Okay, and that was, remember, we started that last, I don't know, it might have been last week, but I remember specifically telling you how much I appreciate you and how much I appreciate you as a wife and as a mother, as a partner in business and all that we do, supporting me and me supporting you. I just really appreciate you so much. And so I guess the people were able to see me showing appreciation, so that will help y'all to not show lack of appreciation, you know, and that, you remember how that went. Number 8 was smartphones.
Dumb people.
I don't know if y'all heard that. Smartphones, dumb people. And you got to go back and check that out. Smartphones, dumb people. Number 9 was selfishness. And then that leads us to number 10, where we are right now. So y'all ready?
Let's get it.
Woo! Drum roll, please. Today we are starting with trust and a deficit of trust, a lack of trust. When trust leaves the marriage, when trust is waning in the marriage, that can be difficult. Now, normally when you first of all, let me ask you, when you hear that there's no trust in the marriage, what's the first thing that pops in your head?
When there's no trust in the marriage.
This marriage, this couple's marriage has no trust. What do you think that usually happen that caused the trust to be gone? Infidelity, cheating. That's the first thing we think about when trust. And we know that is highly,
on the radar.
That's way up there.
But there's so many other things.
But there are many other things that leads to a lack of trust, like lying, broken promises, continually broken promises, and things like that. So there are a lot of different things leads to a lack of trust. But infidelity has been a part of a lot of marriages. I would say 75 to 80% of the marriages over the past 20 years that we've counseled as Christian marriages, one or the other has cheated in that relationship.
Absolutely.
Okay. You lead me like you was ready to jump in there, but you was just supporting.
It kind of speaks for itself.
It kind of speaks for itself. Well, it can't speak for itself when we're doing the show, so we're going to speak on it. So what happens if the trust is gone in the relationship? What do we need to do? The people out there need to know. I can see people right now. I'm not even looking at you. I can see people right now and say, we've kind of had a lack of trust in our relationship over something that's happened in our past. So I got some friends. It ain't me. It's my friend that got a lack of trust. What can we tell them to help them to rebuild trust in a relationship?
Number 1 thing is, if you want to stay with that person, you have to forgive them.
Okay, forgiveness.
Forgiveness is probably number 1.
That's number 1.
Because you can't even really build trust back until you first forgive.
She made that seem so easy.
It's not, but I'm saying that you can't, because a lot of people work on trust. And they work on trust, I'm a trust and I'm trying, but they don't understand the root of it is unforgiveness.
So before you even start working on things, we can talk about some things that how we can help rebuild trust.
Absolutely.
So before we do that, before we go down some things in the natural that we can help put in place to try to help rebuild the trust in our relationship, all these are for naught, you're saying, if forgiveness is not there.
No, how can you trust somebody you can't forgive?
There you go. And we can't wait to forgive when we feel it, when like the hurt and the pain is gone, 10 years later, and so now we're going to forgive. No. You don't forgive when the hurt and the pain and the memories are gone of what happened. You make a decision to forgive.
Yes. And then you work on it.
Now, this is not a topic on forgiveness, but let's just mention this on forgiveness, since we're mentioning forgiveness. Forgiveness is basically you making a decision that I choose not to punish
the other person,
my spouse for what they've done to hurt me.
Yes.
Because that's when we don't forgive, we start treating them funny, we start acting a certain way.
Yeah.
That's our way of punishing them.
Yeah.
You know, put them out the house, make them sleep in another room. You know, all these different things. That's our way of punishing our spouse for what they've done to us until we feel like, you know, enough. You know, we punished them enough.
Like, you really can do that.
Right. So you got to relinquish your right or your desire to judge them and to punish them. So once you got, go ahead.
Because if you're going to
see, sometimes she's saying, yeah, that's her. Okay, I'm ready to jump in. You know, you ever did double dutch? I'm really good at double dutch. My wife not so much, but I'm really good at double dutch. And when I'm double dutch, I'm like, and I want to get in. Then I get in, and I'm like doing all these double dutch tricks. You know, I'm really cold with it. And so she's sitting over there double dutching. She's like, she's double dutching. She's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, jump on in.
Good.
But earlier when she was double dutching, I was like, okay, I got the rope working. Come on, get on in there, baby. And she was like, I don't want to get in. So what you sitting in mixed signals?
Go for it.
No, I'm gonna help you remember whatever. I'm gonna help you remember what you're gonna say.
You
All right,
from me.
so we're talking about on the forgiveness tip. You have to give up your right to punish or sentence someone.
Okay, I know now.
I'm good.
So what I was gonna say, if you decide you want to keep your relationship and you don't want to divorce and you don't want to separate, you will do yourself a better job if you go for the unforgiveness right away, because you're the one that's going to live in hell in the relationship until you do it. And so don't say, I want you to stay, I want this relationship to work, but you're not willing to work on the unforgiveness piece.
Yeah.
Because you're going to make yourself miserable and everybody else around you.
Absolutely.
And so you need to get to it. If you say, I want you, because guess what? If somebody cheats on you and they do it multiple times and you decide that's not how you want to live, guess what? You don't have to. But if you decide that you want to, then you got to change as well.
Absolutely. And we have a question here while we're on this. It says, how do you trust when you believe that lies are present and persistent? Now, that's going to be difficult because if the lies are what caused the lack of trust, then you're not going to be able to rebuild trust. And that's what we're going to get into, the practical things on how to build trust. But you're not going to be able to trust, like you said, if cheating, if infidelity caused the lack of trust, well, I'm not going to be able to rebuild the trust if you're still cheating.
But guess what? This question is that if you basically presume, have you asked the person what you believe the lie is? Have you went to them and say, I believe that you're not telling me the truth?
Okay, so you're saying it may not be the lies are still present.
Yeah, it may be the lies that's still
belief.
present in your thought life, in your mind. So you have to give the other person the opportunity by asking the questions.
So you can't say, so with this question, you can ask this question, but the tone, the tenor is not to say, I believe that lies are just like, I believe they still cheating. No, it's not, I believe they're still cheating. We need to ask them and see. And if they're the type of person that when they're cheating or when they're lying, they say, what is it they say when they say, you know what I'm saying? If they're the type of person that say, you know what I'm saying, before they tell a lie, then when you ask them a question, see if they say, you know what I'm saying. Then you know they lying.
Then I must lie all the time.
Or whatever they signal, if they blink their eye and they twitch before they lie, then you know they're lying. So you can't really believe, you gotta know. But that leads us into the practical things. So what are some practical things? I know some practical things I like is like, if there's been a lack of trust, then I need to, if I want you now to trust me, then I need to just open the books.
Absolutely.
Okay, here's my cell phone lock. Here's my password to my social media sites. This is where I'm going. This is where I've been. I just need to open my books and be an open book to let you know where I'm going, so I don't leave you to your thoughts.
Yeah, because you're the one who did the damage, so you don't determine what it takes for the other person, because you're not feeling the pain that they're feeling. You did the damage, but don't feel the pain. That's just pretty jacked up, when you think about it. So you have to be able to give them the time that they need to heal, and you need to assist in that healing versus just saying, dang, I already told you. We see so many people in marriage counseling where the other person is frustrated and irritated when they're the one who caused the damage.
Yeah, so if you cause this like a trust, then you want that person now, they say they forgave you and they want to help rebuild the trust. But now you got a timetable on it because you know that, let's say for real, you are for real, you've done with it. You're not cheating anymore, you're not lying anymore. You're being open, you're being honest. Okay, that's cool. But you can't put a timetable on how long it takes that other person to get over what they got over. Because you said you don't feel the pain. So you got to work on that. You can't be frustrated. But those are some of the things, and you know, there's more whatever you can think of. But get some accountability partners and things like that. I know, you know, women, you know, in relationships, trust has been broken over things like pornography and things like that. You can go and get covenant eyes on all your, you know, devices, and so that you can't go to certain sites without it being sending an email to your spouse, you know. And so now you got, you know, someone that you can be in what's the word I was saying? Accountability. You got somebody you can be accountable with, that you can you know what sites you're going to, and those kind of things help. Don't try to just rebuild, you know, trust. Sometimes you can't just try to rebuild it alone. Sometimes you need other people as well. All right, so that was number 10, the deficit of trust. Oh, and there was one more thing I want to say on building trust. Both parties must be committed to the rebuilding of the trust. Okay, it's not a situation where, okay, I did something to hurt my wife, and now she doesn't trust me. I cheated, she doesn't trust me, and so now it's just up to me to build the trust in a relationship. No, if she's not committed to the rebuilding of the trust, just like I'm committed to it, it's not going to work, because she's just going to be stuck in the pain. And I'm going to be trying to rebuild the trust, and she's just going to be stuck in the pain. So we have to both be committed to rebuilding of the trust. All right. All right. Number 11. Anger out of control. Anger out of control. First, let me start by saying anger is a natural part of, it's an emotion. Okay? It's like on your dashboard of your car, when the check engine light comes on, that don't mean your car is blowing up and is about to necessarily stop. That's a warning to let you know that if you don't find out what's wrong and do something about it, then it can end up in further damage. So that's a warning signal. Anger,
a new one.
So anger is a warning signal, okay, to you. So if you feel yourself getting angry, warning, Will Robinson, warning. You need to figure out what it is that's causing me to be so angry because if you don't do that and you give in to that anger, then you become this person where your anger is out of control. Now you're raging and yelling and getting mad, and now you're telling the other person what you don't like about them, and what you don't like about what they done, and what you don't like about what they said, and what you don't like about the way they said it, and things like that. And listen, that's not going to help. I can say how I feel.
Yes, but you can't tell me how I feel.
But when I start pointing a finger, that puts the other person on the defense, and that makes them feel like I'm attacking them. But if I tell you how I feel, what just happened, how that made me feel, then that's not anger out of control. But anger out of control is when I get to yelling, when I get to pointing, when I get to accusing and giving off accusations to you that, you know, this is what you meant. How to stop the pain. This is what you meant by that. You know what you meant. You know why you said that. This is why you said it, and this is what you meant when you said it. That's into how to stop the pain. Not judgment.
That's what made you angry, because you are convinced on why they did what they did. It's not based on what was really done to you. It's based on when you go for them. That's where all the anger and the pain surface from.
It's the judgment. You said that because this, and now that makes you angry and makes you lash out to them, when that might not have been why they said it. That's why you thought they said it. But just because that's why you thought they said it, don't mean that's why they said it. Again, we talked about this in another video. You're not God. None of us are God. And none of us can 100% know the heart of another person. Only he can.
But husbands and wives have adopted the principle that they think that they can do that part for God.
Right.
That's what we have done. And that's what's causing so much confusion in the relationships, because the moment you play God in another person's life, confusion is going to surface. It's impossible for it not. I don't care if it's not your husband and wife. It could be with your kids. It can be
Friends.
friends on your job. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The moment you go into that lane, you're gonna bump into confusion.
So if you're a person that, I mean, this sounds easy. So I'm gonna say this, and we're gonna figure out how can we do this because it sounds so easy. Someone whose anger is out of control, one of the number one things that they need to do is stay calm. Too easy, right? Well, it sounds easy, but any of you out there that have been angry, at the moment when you're angry, you know that the last thing on your mind is to stay calm.
And then, come on,
So
and back in our day or whenever, it's like when you're telling me just calm down or lower your voice, it makes you even angrier.
Yeah, there you go.
So we can say stay calm. The tools that you need is to be able to practice and put in place things so when those opportunities come.
Right.
Say that if you reading things or you listening to stuff like this and you know it's gonna come. So when it comes, you can say, I'm not doing that. I'm not participating in that. I just want peace. If you do that, what can another person do with that?
Another thing you can do is if you early on when you stumble.
Yeah.
Because early on you're gonna still, you're gonna have a tendency every now and then to still get into that place. When you stumble, when you get into that place, immediately as soon as you can, go to a quiet place and begin to think about these tools. Begin to think about, okay, what was it in that conversation that just happened that I allowed to set me off?
Yeah.
And then go there. And listen, don't go there with, this is the worst thing you can do. You go into your quiet place, go into your room, go sit out in your car in the garage, whatever. Go on the back porch, and then you start thinking, it was when she said this. It was the way he did this. And you're making that other person be responsible for your anger. Nobody else is responsible for your anger.
No.
You have control over whether you get angry or not. They can push buttons.
Mm-hmm.
They can touch triggers, but you don't have to get angry.
No.
You have allowed somebody else to pull your strings.
Yeah.
They're the puppet master to you because they look at you a certain way and say a certain thing. So when you get angry, look at yourself like this. That's how you look at yourself, that you allow somebody else to make you be a puppet on a string.
And we are, and sometimes, in these shows we do, we don't quote a lot of scripture or anything like that, but it all goes back to the way that you control your flesh. If you're not willing to put it under, you're going to always be a firecracker. If you're not willing to obey God's word, where you're not supposed to act like the world, but you're supposed to put this thing under, then you're going to always bump into those things. And most of us cannot do it alone. We all need help, and we need to renew our mind to get it done. And if we're not willing to do that, we're going to keep on failing that test.
A lot of times also that's correct, so good. A lot of times also when we are angry at that moment, we don't realize it, but at that moment, we are only considering our feelings.
That's it.
So at that moment, you are no longer selfish. You are no longer considering the feelings of your spouse, of your children, of your friend, or whoever else that you're lashing out to. You are no longer considering anyone else's feelings. At that moment, you are only considering your feelings. And so look at yourself as selfish when you get out of control. Yeah. And if you look at yourself like that, and no, I don't think people want to be looked at as selfish.
No.
Okay, and so
because if you say you're selfish, everybody says, no, I'm not.
Right.
That's the first thing that they say. It's, no, I'm not.
They try to think of one thing they do for somebody else.
Yes.
I cut my grandma's grass last summer. I'm not selfish. But that is selfish if you're out of control and you lash out on other people because you're not considering their feelings. So now, that means that you need to consider how they feel. I mean, think about when men or when mothers get frustrated, whatever, and you lash out at little kids.
Man,
and
people don't think about that.
They're in fear and they're in torment. They're scared because you're this big old grown person and you lashing out at a little kid.
Man.
Come on, man, for real?
That's sad.
That's anger out of control and that's selfish. And so
most of us will discipline our children in anger.
Right. That's one thing you can't do. I mean, we're not on that, but since we got people that have children that are still at ages of discipline, Our children are grown. We don't discipline our children anymore. We are here to advise them. They're grown.
Yeah.
We're their advisors to them where they need us.
Yeah.
But if you have children that are still in your care and you love them, to discipline them, don't discipline them when you're frustrated and angry. Let them go sit away, you get away, and think about, what it is. Don't discipline them because you were embarrassed, because they embarrassed you. Man, you got everybody at the church looking at me like I ain't no good parent or something like that, or everybody at the store looking at me like I can't control my kids. That's pride.
Yeah.
You're embarrassed, and so now you want to discipline at them. No, you got to do a better job of training, and you don't just train when you're angry or when they just done something. So that's what we try to do. We're getting off topic. We'll go here a while since we're on it. You don't train your children just when they did something you don't like.
Yeah.
When they're in a good mood, when it's pleasant, when they can receive from you, that's the time when you're training. That's when the time when you're teaching, because at that time when they're afraid, they know they did wrong, and now you begin to lash into them. At that moment, they're only thinking self-defense.
Yeah.
Like, what can I do? What can I say to get this person up off me?
Yeah.
They'll lie. They'll make promises they don't mean. I ain't gonna do it no more. They'll a bit more mean it, but they just trying to get you up off of them. They're trying to protect themselves.
And that's what we do in a marriage. We try to protect ourselves. And once again, the moment you go for your own self and you start protecting yourself, you are in a selfish mode, because this is a joint relationship. And you cannot do it alone, and you cannot do it with only yourself in mind. You have to be able to consider the whole relationship to get what the results that we're looking for.
Absolutely. So when that time comes, tell your spouse, children, anybody else in the relationship, but we're talking about marriage, work on telling your spouse how you feel. If you messed up yesterday, think about the conversation yesterday, and then go back today and say, yesterday I said this. That's not the way I want to handle that. I learned from All the Way Live with the Lovebirds tonight. This is what probably I should have said, and this is what I want to learn how to say. That made me feel not respected. That made me feel, disrespected. That made me feel
Hurt.
That hurt me. Whatever. Talk about how you feel. When you talk about how you feel,
it doesn't make you weak.
It doesn't
make you weak. It helps build communication, and it helps you strengthen your relationship. Now, if someone is constantly disregarding your own feelings in this relationship, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's absolutely a problem. And hopefully you find out something like that in the dating.
Yeah.
During the dating.
Yeah, that's another topic.
Them red flags that come up, you just can't avoid them. Yeah, that's another topic. Like, I know we got some singles out here and things like that, and we're what do you think about singles? Y'all gonna have to hit us up in the chat. What do you think about? We got this topic for y'all, and we said it can help married people too, but we got this topic for y'all where it says just because you love someone doesn't mean you should seriously consider marrying them.
Think about that. Meditate on that. Chew on that.
What y'all think about that, singles? Hit us up. We'll do a podcast or show for y'all on that.
But if we don't hear from you guys, we won't.
We won't do it. All right. So only express your feelings. All right. So that was anger out of control. Get that anger back in control. All right. Last one, number 12. This is number 12. We've been going. This is the 4th week on Marriage Busters. 1, 2, 3. Yep. This is the 4th week. And so here we are. We got to number 12. Number 12 is when there is a change in vision. All right. Now, what do you mean by there is a change in vision? Let me explain what I mean by there's a change in vision. Let's say you went into this marriage and dating and coming into this marriage, you talked and you said that, hey, you know what? When we get married, we want to immediately start a family. We want to be young and start a family. We want to have 3 or 4 children and knock that out and build as we go, build a career and life together, and and get our children grown and out and become empty nesters and retire and live together. And so you get married, and on that osmosis of that's the vision. Both of us are going to work, or only one of us is going to work, whatever the case may be. And that's the vision. All right. And so now you get married, you're into this marriage, and one of them decides that, let's say the wife decides that I don't want to have kids for the first 10 years.
Say 10.
I don't want to have kids for the first 10 years. I'm still young. I still got my body, and I don't want to lose it. And so I don't want to have kids for the first 10 years. And you didn't discuss this before you got married. So you went into marriage with a vision. Now, listen, I just made that example up, but whatever your case could be.
Yeah.
If you
It
decide
could be
to
buy a house.
yeah, it could be about buying a house or living in an apartment, whatever the case may be. If you decide that you talking to somebody else and man,
We see that happen.
oh
so
my God,
many times.
you done made a vision together with your spouse, but now you're over there talking to your homies at the barbershop or your girls at the beauty salon, and you didn't hear something that they talking about, and now you don't let them change the way you think without having this communication with your spouse or with the
They
person
ain't
that
got
you're
nothing
married
vested in this relationship.
to. Nothing. And what was good for them don't necessarily mean that's what's good for you.
That's why I hate when you hear people talk and tell you like there is a one-track way to marriage. The only one-track part of marriage is God. Outside of that, then couples come together in the perimeters of God and not violating scripture and violating his principles, but you get to choose and do your marriage the way you want to do it.
Absolutely. It don't even have to be exactly like your parents were.
You know, most of us be like, oh, yeah, you know, but it's like, it's like, no, you cannot go to, like a lot of people who listen, they go to church. You can't even make your marriage unless you looking at them and their marriage is just the bomb, you know,
Right.
but you can't even make your spouse be like the person you see.
Yeah.
You know, and it causes so much confusion.
That's the leave and cleave. When
Yeah.
you leave your spouse, your parents, their home, and you come together and you figure out what's going to be the best way for your marriage to flow together under the principles of God.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can give you just a quick, easy example illustration. This is a true story. A couple got married. Both of them had parents, great homes, great families, Christians. It was just a perfect match. They dated one another, and then they got married, went on a honeymoon. Everything was rosy. Come back home from the honeymoon, and now that man's ready to go to work. So he gets up that morning to go to work, and the wife is still in bed.
Yeah.
All right, she's resting from the honeymoon. He goes down. Now, again, in this story, they did it God's way. They didn't live together before they got married.
No.
Okay, so they moved in. They got the honeymoon.
Because he
moved in.
wouldn't be so shocked. But go ahead.
Right. So he comes downstairs and his wife's still upstairs in bed. So he's like, man, what's wrong with her? Why is she still in bed? And so he, makes him something to eat for breakfast, maybe a bowl of cereal, whatever. He's a little disgruntled, goes out and goes to work. Normally every day when he was at work before they got married, he was always calling her on his break, seeing how she was doing, whispering sweet nothings in her ear. But this day, he thinking something was wrong with her because she stayed in the bed when he got up and went to work, so he didn't call her. So now she's up and about. She knows it's break time, and so she's waiting for her phone to ring, and the phone doesn't ring. And so now she's like, what's wrong? Why he didn't call me or whatever? So now here comes lunch. Lunch comes, and he doesn't call. She's like, why he didn't call me or whatever? And so now he's going this whole day thinking like, I wonder what's wrong with her. So he comes home from work, and so they're a little on edge. The temperature's off in the room, and they're kind of like, what's wrong? And so they just like, wait a minute, what's up? This is our first day back at home, just got married, honeymoon over, let's sit down, what's going on? The vibe in here ain't right, what's going on? And she's like, yeah, I don't know what's going on, And he's like, what did I do? Why are you upset at me? And she was like, what do you mean upset at you? I'm not upset at you. And he's like, of course you are. You was in the bed when I left and went to work. And she was like, what made you think I was upset because I was in the bed? He was like, well, you didn't get up and make me breakfast. And she was like, what made you think I was going to get up and make you breakfast? He was like, my whole life, my mom got up and fixed breakfast for my dad and bring breakfast for us. And she was like, well, in my house, everybody made breakfast for themselves. And so just because they did it both ways, it doesn't make one way right or wrong.
No.
Their way worked for them and her family. His way worked for him and his family. But when they came together, now they're going to have to communicate and talk about what's going to work for our family.
And build their own foundation.
Yes.
Because that could have been a mess.
It could have been a mess right off the bat.
Right off the bat, and it's just like, y'all didn't have that discussion before,
but
most people don't.
They don't talk about little things.
Like
don't think about little things. But here's the thing: going into marriage, you may not think about every little thing that you need to talk about.
No.
So what's important is what the tool that they did have was that they didn't let this linger. Day
Yes.
one, they communicated.
Day one.
Day one, they communicated about it, and they were able to figure that, oh, okay, it's not that one way or the other is right. It's just that that's the way y'all did it. This is the way we did it. Now we got to figure out how we gonna do it.
Yeah, and you know how us sister girls do. We don't need to be like, you got me twisted if you think I'm gonna be cooking breakfast for you in the morning. You know, we'll do that. You know, all it's gonna do is cause more confusion. It's like, no, we're not gonna handle each other like that. That was an expectation he had, and you had an expectation from the texting and the phone call. Now let's come together and come to a common ground and say, okay, how we gonna do this? How we gonna do it in our household?
Yeah.
You know, I know you fend for yourself, but I will appreciate sometime that you would do this.
Maybe on the weekend.
Maybe, something, not just never. That's not okay. So yeah, we got this new generation. They we do it the way we want to do it.
But again, we made the point of the story is that, you gotta lead and cleave. You gotta communicate and figure out what works for your family. And then don't let some outside sources change the vision.
Yeah.
Listen, we talked about the barbershop and the beauty shop. People can be watching a movie, Lifetime or anything, went to the AMC, went to watch a movie, and because somebody said something on a movie, now they thinking like, yeah, that's where I need to be. Wow. And you haven't talked that over to your spouse. So easily influenced. It's okay if you hear something, you bring it to the table. You say, you know what, I was listening to somebody say, so what do you think about this?
Yeah.
Then that's a different story.
Yeah.
But you start meditating on it, planning it, and then all of a sudden, one day you come to your husband and say, you know what, I know we live in the Kansas City metropolitan area, but I want to go to this school in Arizona, and it's for 9 months, and I'm going to be away from you for 9 months, and it costs $30,000. And so that's what I want to do or whatever. And now I got to look at this like, huh? Where they do that at? That's a true story. I know somebody who really did that. That's a really true story.
I did.
Can you believe Dr. Angel Byrd just researched this all? I don't know how much time she spent researching it. I could have saved her all that time researching all of this if she would just came to me the first place and just said, what do you think about me going to this nutrition school in Arizona for 9 months? I should have said, X name, it ain't happening. I could have saved her all that time of researching. But she spent all this time researching in secret when I don't know. And she received, and this school is great. And it's 9 months. And it costs so many thousands of dollars. Okay, babe. Boom, let me present you this package. I'm like, you tripping.
And it was so crazy because I don't know what I was expecting, but I don't know why I wasn't expecting for him to say, are you punking me? Is this like a joke? I was so serious. I was like, and I'll come home on the weekend. And because I see couples work like that, their work schedule is they work out of town and they see each other on the weekend.
That ain't our schedule. That ain't how we roll. No.
I was so disappointed. I was so hurt because I talked to the people and I would have been, it would have took me, I guess it was going to take a long time or whatever.
So before she even figured out, talk to them about payment plans and things like. So listen, before you spend all this time researching it, go to your spouse and communicate and say, what would you think about me doing something like this? So you can find out if they're like, are you tripping? Heck to the no, we ain't going for that.
You see how much I love nutrition? Because I was ready to just be like, I'll see you on the weekend.
She's about to vanish. She was willing to vanish for 9 months. I'm like,
it wasn't going to be 9 months because I was going to be coming home on the weekend.
First of all, we wasn't even rolling like that back then.
But you know me, I have a brain.
But at the time, we wasn't rolling like that to where she could be gone 9 months and flying here every weekend, or flying there,
none of that
whatever. We wasn't rolling like that back then. So,
I found the school closer.
Oh man, but that's number 12. So don't change the vision because of outside sources. Always communicate with your spouse, the one that you have the vision with, because if you have a vision together, listen, it's okay that as time goes, things change because we grow and we adapt.
Yeah.
I didn't, when I married her, I didn't know that she was going to be into nutrition. She didn't even know at that time. When she married me, she didn't know I was going to get into trading and things like that. I didn't know.
Oh, I definitely didn't know he was going to become no pastor
She didn't know
because I wouldn't have signed up for that.
We didn't know we was going to be doing marriage.
No.
We didn't know those things. So you can kind of grow and adapt as you go, but you have to do that together and communicate together. Listen, I would not have went forward, and I know God wouldn't even call me, but I would not have went forward with ministry had she just said flat out, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. There's no way I wouldn't have done that. So you got to have some agreement.
Yeah, and when you love God and you understand that God calls people, then I wouldn't have never gotten in the way of that. But he got in the way of my dream for Arizona. So why didn't I do the same thing he did?
Two heads are free. Only one person can be the head. Sometimes we want to come together on all our decisions if we can. But if we ever can't come to a decision, then I'm responsible for making the right choice, the loving right choice. Not like I'm the man, I'll say no, not that type of thing, but I have to make a responsible choice that has the long-term health and care of our family. We still have kids. We still have kids at home. Didn't we? Somebody.
Yeah.
At least that
too. Joy. That's all I'm talking about.
So she gonna bounce on me and the kids for 9 months. Come on, right? Like she playing like pro ball or something. Like she in the WNBA. She just gonna bounce on her for like 9 months. You serious? Come on, man. I don't know where they do that at.
But yeah, and so that also will get you in trouble when you both have an opinion and you both are strong on your opinion. And as a woman in your household, especially if your husband is serving God and you cannot change your views, or you're not losing out on anything, but God has an order. And the order is the husband is the lead.
Good. I'm glad you. That's where I was going when I went with the funny thing. But as a husband, so you husband out there, I'm responsible for making the decisions. I want my wife's input on these decisions, as many of them as I can. But if I need to make the decision, I need to make the decision because I'm responsible to God. But I make that decision out of love for her and for my family, that this is what I believe, either from hearing from God or that wisdom says that I believe that this is the best decision for our family. Not because this is just what I want to do.
Yeah, and it can't be like that. It cannot be like that.
Because a woman would have trouble submitting to a man like that. Yeah. But it's easy for a woman to submit to say it with me. Yeah, it's easy for a woman to submit to a man who's a servant leader.
Yeah. Say that again, servant leader.
Say that, man. Servant leader. We having problems with these S's out here. What's up? Women having problems saying submit. Men having problems saying servant. Come on. It's easy for a woman to submit to a servant leader. Now, here's the age-old question. Which one comes first, the chicken or the egg? Which comes first, the submission or the servant leader? You're asking the wrong question. Just do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, we all have our roles. Just do your role. That's all you gotta do. And if you do that, we'll all be good.
All right, we good. That's it for today. We got any questions before we go? We're done here. We're on our time. It's about 45 minutes. That's a good show. Any questions? Or if I don't see any questions, any last comments for today?
No, I just want them to go back. This was 4, and we had 2 before there, so I think
3 before this.
3 before this, so it's a total of 7, right?
Oh no, I'm just talking about in this series of 12. There's 4 of these.
Yeah, so I said 4 of these and 2 before.
Oh, that's what you were talking about. Okay.
2 before, and they kind of build upon each other. So kind of go back and get the information. You don't have to struggle alone. You don't have to try to figure this out alone. God brings people and give people wisdom, and people go to school and get information to be able to help other people. Mm-hmm. So don't just sit around and just suffer alone. You don't have to.
All the Way Live with the Lovebirds is fun marriage counseling. That's just literally what it is. Yeah. It's marriage counseling that you can get from your home, that you don't got to be in front of us, 1, paying us, and for 2, feeling the heat. You can hide behind your phone, hide behind your computer, and get this marriage counseling for free.
Because marriage counseling outside of this is not free for us. So if you have any questions, put it in the comments and we'll answer them.
She will. She will go back and read every
Yeah, I
comment.
normally go back and read them. And it's people putting them in over the week, I still see them.
All right.
Or whatever, so.
All right. Well, again, this has been All the Way Live with your love, with the love.
Anybody got a prescription, yeah, for this love thing? Anybody got a pill like a